So for legal aid, the next milestone really was the 1960s, the 1970s. We heard Lord Rushcliffe's recommendation for a universal system, but still there were many people on low incomes who were in need of legal advice but did not have access to law firms or specialist lawyers, and therefore they were excluded, sometimes through means testing. But luckily, in the wonderful 1960s, there was social and cultural change which triggered really a legal aid revolution. And back in 1970, North Kensington Law Centre opened, in fact, in a butcher's shop at the north end, then the pre-trendy Portobello Road. Followed in the same year by one in Brent and another in Cardiff, and by 1974, another 13 had been established. So our next guest is Steve Hynes, who's the former director of the Law Centres Federation. Prior to working for them, Steve spent 6 years as coordinator of Rochdale Law Centre, where he undertook plenty of casework in employment and discrimination law. He's now director of the Eminent Legal Action Group and is well known for his campaigning work on legal aid and access to justice. So Steve, please come and join us. So, can you tell us what it was like in the early days of law centres, please?
Well, yeah, I was volunteering from primary school in the first law centre. In other words, I'm not as old as that, but it was set up in a butcher's shop in North Kent, and Brent followed soon afterwards. And certainly the people around at that time, they were very much seen as radical lawyers, that old cliche, but they invented the cliche, I think, because they challenged really how legal services were delivered. But before then, the only model was private practice, and they really flew against convention, setting up a high street practice that was open to impoverished communities just to walk in the door and seek advice on just about any problem. And they met opposition. The Law Society in particular didn't want to see law centres develop. Eventually, with the intervention actually from the Lord Chancellor, they were allowed to, and the solicitors' rules were changed. And the movement took off in the 70s. It did grow quite quickly, but then it was stifled, it would be fair to say. But it led to important changes, probably the most important one being Green Form Legal Aid that was established in the mid-70s, and now we have legal help. And the idea behind Green Form was that you could get advice on just about any civil legal problem. But of course the history of it is that then scope was cut back, and mainly because of funding cuts, funding constraints. I think the 80s and the 90s, that's really the story of legal aid. We've seen a gradual cutback, and certainly civil cases.
This is, do you want to plug?
Yeah, no, shameless plug. That's Mike's book on legal aid, and it's available at the back if any of you are feeling rich. It's on offer tonight. And also we've got a book about making legal aid work, which is about really practice management, and certainly every firm should have one.
I mean, you've already really told us some of the challenges and successes, but do you want to sort of emphasise any particular successes which you think legal aid centres really brought about?
Well, the law centres, they certainly led to the development of what we call social welfare law now. You know, pretty much housing law was developed in law centres, and what you saw was people moving out of law centres and setting up private practice firms that specialised in housing and other social welfare law areas. And so really, a lot of the pioneers of the law centres movement who went into private practice, a lot of them were housing lawyers and specialised in housing, and others specialised in other areas of social welfare law. But there's also the story around employment law. One of the problems with employment law is, of course, employment tribunals or industrial tribunals are out of scope. Well, what you have in law centres is they would do the work within scope, still do, and then they'll have other funding to do the tribunal and other work that wasn't in scope. So one example I'd give, maybe some of you would know it from your textbooks, was Seymour Smith, which it was a case now 10 years old, and that led to the change in the law that reduced the qualifying time to claim a fair dismissal.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.